Hey there, it's Shauna. I hope you're doing great. Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for October 30th. So this week is all about shifting erotic blueprints because this week you'll have opportunities to shift things around how it is that you relate to people, and especially around your ability to enjoy sensual pleasure and what that means to you as far as connecting with another and connecting with yourself individually as well. So I'm excited to share the astrology of this week with you, and then I have 3 tips for you to have an amazing week. So this week is really interesting because we have a lot of energy that's building up throughout the week, and then kind of comes to like an apex around Friday and Saturday. So all of these aspects that I'll talk about, they all happen around Friday, but we're feeling the build towards Friday, Saturday. So firstly, we have Venus, which is about relationships and love and beauty, but also sex and eroticism and the things that give us pleasure, the things that we are drawn towards, that we're allured towards. So Venus is making aspects with Saturn and Uranus. And this is important because Saturn asks us to be devoted to something. It asks us to create structure and healthy boundaries, healthy limitation. And there's also a sense of duty with Saturn as well. At the same time, Venus is making an opposition to Uranus, which asks us to do the opposite, to break free of restriction, to let go of limitations, and to shake things up a little bit. So this is really interesting because it is asking us to simultaneously figure out what it is that we want to commit to, but then at the same time remain autonomous to ourselves, to our own individuality. Uranus is about claiming your own sense of self and your own sense of individuality, especially when that goes against the grain, when that goes against the norm of what may be happening. The other aspect that's happening this week is we have the Sun in Scorpio making a trine to Neptune. And so when the Sun and Neptune come together, this puts our awareness on what it is that needs to dissolve, on what it is that needs to, if there's a part of ourselves that maybe isn't working, or maybe that doesn't really even matter anymore. It's kind of like water under the bridge. And this is Scorpio, so it could be very deep, it could be very subtle, but this is a harmonious aspect as well. And so this may work with the relationship piece and what it is, how it is that you relate to other people, and maybe as you're finding a greater sense of connecting to your individuality and your independence while being in relationship, maybe that shifts things as far as your conscious awareness, as far as your ego, which is the Sun, is the ego. And then lastly, we have a full moon in the sign of Taurus. And so this full moon is happening either Friday or Saturday, depending on where you are in the world. It is exact on Friday, November 3rd. At 10:23 p.m. Pacific time. This is Saturday, November 4th at 5:23 a.m. Universal time, and then also on Saturday at 3:23 p.m. Australian Eastern time. And it's at 11 degrees of Taurus. So this is important because it's a full moon, so and it's Friday, Saturday. So typically we feel the build, the emotional intensity building, up leveling as we work towards the full moon. So I would say this week, be prepared to start feeling more emotional as the week progresses. And this is in the sign of Taurus. So Taurus is about sensual pleasure, about creature comforts. It's about a sense of beauty and peace that comes when we surround ourselves with things that feel good, that sound beautiful, that look beautiful. Taurus is also associated with being in nature and finding a sense of calm and peace, and even a sense of spiritual connection in nature. So these are all things that you may want to think about or to enjoy. But most importantly, I want you to know that Friday, Saturday, you may feel like a breath of fresh air after things are kind of like building and more intense during the week. So don't take things personally during the week, just notice what comes up. and especially around this balance between how it is that you relate to others and how it is that you relate to yourself and your own sense, like not even your own needs, but your own sense of pleasure, like what actually brings you pleasure. And this doesn't have to be in a sexual way. It can be just like what feels good to you, you know, like a massage feels good, delicious food feels good. If there's like certain foods that bring you a lot of joy, like that kind of thing. That's what I want you to be thinking about this week. So this leads me to the 3 tips that I have for you. So tip number 1 is to seek opportunities for freedom in your partnerships. And so this applies to romantic, platonic, business partnerships, all manner of relationships. Where can you find more freedom? And this is really important because it does not mean that you need to separate yourself from the people in your life, but it's more about like taking responsibility for your own mental state, your own emotional state, and what gives you a sense of freedom while remaining in a partnership. And that's going to be very individual. It's very personal. But that's something that I want you to think about, especially as we go through this week leading up to those Venus aspects with Saturn and Uranus. Tip number 2 is to find some chill time this week. So this is so important whenever we're building towards a full moon. And especially full moon in Taurus, because Taurus, it wants us to chill. It wants us to simplify. Taurus is the opposite sign of Scorpio. So where Scorpio is about the complexity of things and really getting into like the deep dark secrets and the mysteries of life, Taurus in contrast is like, I just want to be happy and I just want to feel good. Like I don't need to know all the drama, like drop the drama at the door as much as you can, and do that by finding some chill time this week. And then before I give you tip number 3, I have a quote that I want to share with you. So this week, as some of you know, if you listen to the podcast that I co-host, the Feminine Principle podcast, we always theme the podcast around a certain book or a person that's very inspiring. And so this week, we've themed around this book, Mating in Captivity by Esther Perel, Unlocking Erotic Intelligence. And so we chose this particular book because she really speaks about, in all of her work, Esther Perel speaks about this balance between intimacy and freedom, and how that's so crucial for having for having that erotic intelligence, for having intimacy with your partner, but then also cultivating the desire piece as well. So this is a part where she's talking about, she says, me in the context of we. Our physical and emotional dependence on our parents surpasses that of any other living species in both magnitude and duration. It is so complete, and our need to feel safe is so profound that we will do anything not to lose them. We will suppress our wishes and push our aggression underground. We will take the blame for abuse, submit to control, become self-reliant, and otherwise renounce our needs. In short, we'll apply a wide range of self-preservation tactics, all aiming at maintaining our primary bond. Things get tricky when you consider that one of our greatest needs, developmentally speaking, is autonomy. And so I think this is so important because we need both. We need to have that connection. And she speaks about the relationship with the parents because with psychologically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, we recreate a lot of that pattern that we had, the attachment that we had with our parent. We recreate that in all of our partnerships, romantic and otherwise. I think there's one part in here where she says, tell me how you were loved and I'll tell you how you love now. So it's like we're always recreating these patterns. And so the thing is, this week, we're being called to notice how it is that we connect, how it is that we relate, how it is that we maintain that bond, and then how it is that we can have autonomy within ourselves at the same time. Super important. So that. And then tip number 3 that I want to leave you with is to plan something fun for this weekend. Plan something where you don't have to worry, you can just relax and enjoy and have fun. So important when we have this full moon in Taurus. And I think that the weekend is going to be like a breath of fresh air, like what you'd be like, like, okay, I can exhale now. So that is your weekly horoscope. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, please share it with a friend. I love to get these messages out to as many people as possible. And if you want to go deeper into these themes, you can listen to the podcast that I co-host with my astro friend Mel of Energetic Principles. The podcast is called The Feminine Principle, Astrology for Authentic Living. And I'll have a link down below so that you can listen to that either on Podbean or on iTunes. And then, yeah, if you're interested in an astrology reading or astrological counseling, the best way to reach me about that is to send me an email. I have a link below to my email address. And until next time, I'm sending lots of love and wishing you an amazing week. Namaste.